But other happenings on Monday Night Raw included Becky Lynch returning for the first time since losing to Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania nearly a month ago. And she's back, and she is at rock bottom now. She is at her lowest she's ever been, not having a championship for the first time in 3 years. But she is going to make the Becky Lynch comeback. The redemption story is on, and she is going to find a way to get her rematch against Bianca Belair and beat her for the Raw Women's Championship. And nobody in that locker room can do a damn thing about it, but someone can, in the form of the returning Asuka, who gets an amazing ovation from the Knoxville crowd. And she tells Becky Lynch, "Oh, I think I can do something to you, because you're not ready for Asuka." And she tries to backfist Becky, and Becky runs. And I'm very happy to see Asuka back. It's been a long time since she's been in a WWE ring, dating back to last year's Money in the Bank pay-per-view that was still named a pay-per-view back then, before premium live events were a thing. She injured her arm after that show and took some time away from the ring, but she's back. She looks amazing. And I do find it interesting that nearly 2 years ago, Asuka won the women's Money in the Bank ladder match from WWE headquarters on the roof during peak pandemic times. And the next night on Monday Night Raw, Becky Lynch revealed that she was pregnant, and Asuka won the championship that was in the briefcase. And they shared that moment, and now we run it back 2 years later, and it's Asuka crashing Becky's redemption story. And the good news is these matches are going to be absolutely amazing, because their chemistry is always on point. And imagine 2 years removed from their most recent matches on Raw and on pay-per-view, they're going to produce magic together once again as a way to get Becky away from Bianca Belair and the Raw Women's Championship for now.
So I mentioned that Randy Orton was my favorite male wrestler. Asuka is my favorite women's wrestler. And I know most probably think, listening to this show, it's Bianca Belair. She's a close second, but Asuka is my favorite women's wrestler, bar none. The energy she has, the way she moves, the way she dances, the way she glides to the ring, the way she hits the ropes, her speed, everything about her is different and feels different. She's going to be a huge jolt of energy to this women's division, and I think she's also going to be the key to keeping Bianca. You mentioned Bianca and Becky Lynch and keeping Becky Lynch away from the title for a bit. I think Asuka's the key to keeping Bianca Belair away from Rhea Ripley, which needs to be the priority. They need to be kept separate until either SummerSlam, which I think is too early, either SummerSlam or WrestleMania. If Bianca Belair is not facing Charlotte Flair at next year's WrestleMania, it's got to be Rhea Ripley. And I say Charlotte Flair because that completes the 4 horsewomen, and you would beat 3 in a row at WrestleMania, winning a title. It'd be incredible. But I think that this is great for the women's division. Asuka versus Bianca Belair, that's a banger. That's a banger waiting to happen. Watching Asuka, just throw the strikes at Bianca and seeing Bianca try to she hasn't really faced a striker. When you think about it, the women that she's faced so far, none of them are strikers. Not like an Asuka. Even Sonya Deville, who does have the MMA background, she's not a striker. She's got some suplexes, but she's throwing more, ground-based type thing. Asuka's throwing kicks, back fists, slaps. She's hitting hard. That's a different feel. I'm really excited about that. Even her versus Rhea Ripley, running that back with fans now, and especially if they give us this heel Rhea Ripley, the monster, badass heel Rhea Ripley. I'm really excited about what Asuka could bring to the table. She didn't even have to win the title, but she's so important right now. I fully expect her to beat Becky Lynch. I think Becky Lynch is going to go on a huge losing streak. So I expect Asuka to win there. And then I kind of think she's going to segue into a Rhea Ripley. And that should kind of be a number one contenders feud. That's a problem WWE has, is if you're not going for the title, we don't really care about what you're doing. They need to start having people built up. And Rhea and Asuka can have a really fun feud. Asuka can have a really fun feud with Liv Morgan. That could be a lot of fun. I mean, she can work well with so many people. And like I mentioned, the Bianca Belair Asuka match, you can get 2 matches out of that. That's a SummerSlam match. For my money, that's a great SummerSlam title match. Because if you have that, that means Becky Lynch is going to face somebody. So that's 2 women's matches off top, just on the Raw side. You're probably going to get Rhea Ripley in the match. You could potentially have like 5 women's matches on a SummerSlam card. That's what we want, right? Built up, strong matches. That's what we want. I'm way more intrigued by Becky Lynch Rhea Ripley match than Shanky versus Ricochet. You know what I mean? Like, that's what Asuka opens the door for so much. There's so much potential with her being back, even with this thin roster. And I'm forgetting about Doudrop. Mm-hmm. That's another really fun match. Asuka versus Doudrop. Man, I think Asuka being back is the breath, the fresh air, and the jolt of energy this division really needs and can be key for Bianca and Rhea Ripley specifically.
Yeah, I go back to what I said prior to Bianca winning the championship at WrestleMania, and that when she wins the championship, it opens this division up to so many possibilities that weren't there before, because Becky was the champion, and when she's there, it's a bottleneck, and you can't do much because she's going to wipe through all the challengers. Bianca's the champion. It opens up Asuka versus Bianca, Asuka versus Rhea Ripley. Once again, Asuka versus Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan. The options are endless. Doudrop, who I was about to mention as well, she is right there, and she is so good. And that's how you create secondary feuds, not revolving around the Raw Women's Championship. It's a way to get other people ready for that championship match, for Hell in a Cell, for Money in the Bank, for SummerSlam. If you want to save Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair for WrestleMania, that's how you do it. And hopefully Alexa Bliss gets back in there as well to really add more depth to this division, which is really healthy if you just give the ladies ample television time every Monday night. That's the quantity we're talking about. That's the quality they were speaking of, when you can mesh those things together and make it make sense in terms of how you produce these segments and how you put the matches on. That's how fans are given a reason to care. And Asuka being back in the fold definitely opens up this division a bit more, and it gives Becky something to do on the side, not revolving around Bianca Belair or the Raw Women's Championship for a change. So I'm all for Asuka's return. It was a great segment, and here's hoping that it leads to so much more for this women's division moving forward as we move on to stadium season, because WWE's got 3 stadium shows in 2 months, and they got to start building stuff from the roots up with Asuka right at the forefront of it, alongside, obviously,